it's fantastic to see such a great turnout, such an important event. I just want to say, if you listen to all our other speakers, you would think this is quite depressing. You know, the rise of the far right, the kind of really hostile environment towards refugees. And I do want to say this, the far right are not having their own way across the board. You know, they would like us to believe, mainstream media, everybody actually, the 1%, the ruling class would like you to believe that racism comes from uneducated working class people. White uneducated working class people. And I want to say this, it's not true. Because actually I'm part of Stand Up to Racism. We've got people here that are from Care for Cali, the two organisations, we really work closely together. And every time we do a solidarity event, every time we do a collection for refugees, it's the working class communities that come together and support the work that we do with refugees and donate what little they have, they will donate openly. It's not the 1%, it's not the millionaires, it's working class people up and down this country that have actually are the backbone of supporting organisations for Care for Cali and standing solidarity to refugees. So I think it's really important to say that. So why is it that we're seeing the attacks on refugees? Well, I'll say quite clearly, look at the welcome that Ukrainian refugees had. Now I'm going to say this is not just because they were white. It was also because of the rhetoric around those refugees. The fact that the media and the government put out a very clear message that these people are fleeing war and they need to find safety and we're going to open up our homes for them. That's what we did. That was a message that came not just from anti-racist organisations but from the top of society. It's a very, very different message coming from the top of the society when it comes to other refugees. Why? Because it suits the government. It suits the Tory government to point the finger at refugees for all the ills in the world. Someone said earlier, 13 years of a Tory rule, you know, the worst crisis, living standard we've ever seen in society. And I want to say how great it is to see, you know, I'm here at a trade union building. It's absolutely fantastic to see the trade union movement fighting back, because actually that's what we need to shift the narrative coming from this government. At a time when they would say it's all about refugees, it's all about these people taking your jobs, taking your homes, taking the schools position, hospital beds. Actually, it's not about that. It's about the fact that the Tory government has spent years pulling back funding for the welfare state, attacking our living standards, and that gives the far right a massive space to build. And that's what we're seeing. You know, we beat Tommy Robinson. I'm from the Northwest. I'm really proud to say that we pushed him into the gutter where he belongs with the 2%. Why is he rearing his head again? Because this government uses a rhetoric that they use and it allows the far right to latch onto that. Why is it that we saw Britain First standing in places in Manchester and Salford, one of the poorest constituencies in the Northwest, in fact probably one of the poorest in the country? Why did they pick that? Because they knew people were desperate. They knew people were desperate and they were looking for change. And it's not, let's be honest, we're not going to get it from the Tories. Unfortunately, we haven't got it from the Labour Party either. So actually the far right think we can build on this. This is exactly what's happening. They are seeing this and they're latching on. And I would say this, we absolutely have to hold the government to account. But we can't wait either for the Labour Party. We cannot wait for them to push the far right back, because actually we are going to see an attack on our living standards which will only increase. And when that increases, people are going to be desperate and they're going to look for messages. You know, they're going to look for some form of change. And we as the anti-racist movement have to be giving out a clear message that actually is not about your black neighbour or the new migrant in your street. It's about the Tory government taking away our the funding into our communities. And I want to say this, when they talk about austerity and the cost of living, saying there's no money, it really is not about there being no money. Because the Tory government, our Prime Minister not so long ago was in France meeting with a French president, and they agreed a package of £500 million to stop refugees from coming into Britain. £500 million. Think about that. Think about if they'd invested that into our communities. Think about how many more jobs we'd have, how many more hospital beds we'd have, how many more houses they could have built. They chose not to do this. So for me, the Tory government and their rhetoric around refugees, it's a clear policy. They want to weaken the working class at a time when we should be standing together and fighting back. So I want to say this. I don't need to repeat what the rest of the speakers have said about the importance of building a mass movement against the far right. We at the working class Black and white workers, the trade union, and I do want to say this, the trade union movement is so important because they are the backbone of every anti-racist campaign we have built in this country. Every campaign that has been successful has had the trade union movement at the heart of that. So it's really good that we're having this joint TUC conference here in the Midlands today. We need to continue to build that link with the trade union movement. If you are part of a trade union branch that isn't affiliated to Stand Up to Racism, that isn't supporting your local Stand Up to Racism group, and you should all have a list of all the local groups there are, please go back to your trade union branch and make sure you know exactly who your Stand Up to Racism group is in your area. You're working closely with them, you're building the networks, because actually the fight is going to get worse and our movement needs to get stronger, and we as working class black and white workers together, we can push our racists back, and in doing so we can also push back this Tory vicious racist government.